So hi everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of Surfing with the Storm. And so this time we have Neelesh Shekdar with us. It's a very interesting story because usually, Surfing with the Storm is about all the positive vibes that you get. But I think somehow we've realized over time that conversations like death, conversations like moving on, conversation like living life without a loved one, such conversations don't exist in our living rooms. And I think it was important for us to able to recognize it, identify with this, and see how we can be a part of so many people's journey who are yet struggling with, with having to come to terms with such a loss. So we thought, I think we'll invite somebody who's been very closely affected by this process, and who really want to, come back to the world and make a difference. So, here we have Neelesh with us. So so thank you so much, Neelesh, for accepting our request to kind of have this conversation today with us.
Thank you, Neerav. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to give you a little bit of background about Neelesh, I thought it was important. So he's in the field of HR, and he's been working for about a couple of decades now. But that's not his actual story. His real story began when his 8-year-old son Ajinkya was diagnosed with leukemia, and it was a prolonged treatment for almost 8 years. After which, he lost Ajinkya to an unsuccessful bone marrow transplant. So it's actually very humbling to stand in front of a father who's lost his loved one and to speak about him, and yet have the courage to kind of walk this path and say, okay, I'm going to be with people like Ajinkya who go through this process and be a part of their family, be a part of their story, and see how we can help them in many ways. So that's really the crux of today's interview. And so we'll straight away dive into it. So the first question, Neelesh, is, to you is, tell us a little bit about background about yourself. Where did you grow up? How was your childhood like? Because childhood is all about today's call in one sense. So What was your childhood like?
Right. So first of all, Happy New Year to all. All right. So this is a good beginning actually to start. I think this particular, your session, right, is Surfing with the Storm. The name actually is a perfect name for this sort of a sessions, right? So, because I'm sure many of us already passed through this particular storms, and they only realize it after this actual storm is passed away, right? So we can realize the intensity of this storm only after that. So as you said, right? So I lost my kid, my son, at a very young age now. Just at 15 years of age, I lost him actually. And so just to introduce myself, right? So that's the main story that I want to discuss today. So thought like I should make that point here. So basically, I'm born and brought up in Pune itself. So as you have already said, I'm into the IT organizations, into the talent management functions since almost 19 years plus now, right? So into working as a talent manager there, all right? So born up and brought up in Pune. My parents, my father actually came from a village place from Karnataka. So he built his career at Pune. Then they got married, and then mother and my father were both staying at Pune itself. My mother was working as a teacher. And then they actually built a good career. They raised 3 kids. There's 2 sisters I have, elder sisters, who are actually elder to me. I mean, we have a gap of almost 15 and 10 years between us. So I am the third one, most loved kid, you can say. And always happy, always enjoying my childhood. I had this loving parents, so naturally, after maybe I can say that after 2 daughters, and even that particular era, right? I mean, where it was like son to mangta hi hai, sort of a thing, right? So I was the 3rd kid coming in the family, and I was most loved. So even my sister used to love me, and I mean, I was having this family who were taking care of me, and so naturally I was very enjoying, very happy. So sort of a life had been, right? Uh, so college, I mean, the school and all here in Pune itself, for some time I was in Mumbai as well. For I would say around 3 to 4 years I was in Mumbai. And after that, again, I came back to Pune because of my father's transfer. He was working with Philips India. So due to that, his particular transfers used to happen, and then for some duration we were at Mumbai as well. And when we returned back again, I mean, we were in Pune itself, and again, the college life as such started late for me. Because I would say 1994, when just my first year of my particular college, right, I lost my father. So he passed away in an accident, actually, in a road accident, while actually returning from back from office. So that was the biggest shocker at start. We can say that. So that happened in 1994 when I was just maybe 18, 19 years old, and that was just maybe a beginning of my college life and all. So that actually is the turn, you can say the 360-degree turn for me started there. My sisters were till that time already married. So we were just my mother and me in the house in that time. So my mother was like, as I've said, she was a teacher. So she was like that, whatever I do, right? So I should actually start doing that first. I mean, not directly getting into learning mode and all, but just start on it. Then maybe we can, I mean, you can learn and then gradually work upon it. So it's like just drop into the water and start swimming there. So sort of a thing. So yeah. So I thought like, I mean, I should say about it because they were so caring that I mean, she was like, you start whatever you do, you start on first. You I mean, one incident I would like to tell you that we were into that mode of starting a business that time, right? Myself and my mother. So we were like, I mean, the first of all, she gave me a computer at home, a brand new computer she brought in for me, and she said, now this is your computer. You do whatever you want to do it with me. I mean, you can maybe learn hardware, software on that. Whatever you want, you can do it with the computer and start learning on it. So sort of a life was there. I mean, one incident out of it, I will just tell that I mean, in her school itself, she tried to introduce me as a teacher there at start. And on the first day when we actually were to speak there, right? So I was to train the students, and my mom introduced me to the particular students and also the parents that were present at that time, right? So she was like that. Now this is you. I mean, you start now. I mean, I'll not do anything here. It's over to you now. Sort of that. That was the first moment when I was public speaking that time. So that's what I just wanted to say here, right? Made it over to you.
Interesting. That's amazing, and I think it's like practice before you preach.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. So I remember this very amazing incident which happened with probably I think it was Tukaram, where there is this mother who brings his young son, to Tukuba and says, Tukuba, ये बहुत गुड़ खा रहा है, बहुत खा रहा है, ज्यादा, इसकी सेहत के लिए अच्छा नहीं है, तो आप इसको कुछ समझाइए. तो तुकोबा जी माँ को बोलते हैं, माँ आप एक काम करिए, इनको ले जाइए और इनको 10 दिन बाद वापस लेके आ जाइए, फिर मैं इसको समझाता हूँ. So then the mother brings him again, the kid after 10 days. And, again she says, Tukuba, अभी आपको जो बताया था ये गुड़ का प्रॉब्लम अभी तक चालू है, why don't you tell him something now? And then Tukuba in his own sweet language sits with the boy, helps him explain that this is not good for you and all that. And then the mom is perplexed. She's like, I came exactly 10 days ago and you could have said this, right? आपने इतना देर क्यों किया? तो he says, गुड़ तो मुझे छोड़ना था ना, अभी तो मैं बता सकता हूँ इसको कि तू भी गुड़ छोड़, मुझे भी गुड़ का इतना ही प्यार है, मुझे भी इतनी ही आदत है.
Yeah.
So I had to drop it before I even advise somebody. So I think, a very, very similar context in terms of, what you just shared.
Okay.
Practice before preach. But yeah, getting on early in terms of life, getting onto this, taking on responsibilities, taking on so many things. So how was that? How did you cope up with this studying and taking on responsibilities and sharing family values and all of that? So what was going in your mind saying, हमको कैसे जीना है उस time पे? So what was in your mind?
Right. So as I said, right. So mom was always there for me, and she was like, "You start now," right? So because I mean, she was working though, but then she was like, "You have to start your own sort of journey as well now that we are just two of us in the house now, and then you have to start the journey." So then she was like, "To start kar kuch na kuch," right? So that's the reason I started on that particular business as well. But it was really tough for me to balance both the things, right? So then graduation, I mean, I completed my graduation pretty later in the flow. But then till the time I was actually trying to focus on both the things. That is, first of all, my mom's health, because after my father passed away, right? So she uh, started having many sort of health issues, and due to the sudden shock and all, right? So that was the biggest challenge for me as well, because she was also regularly getting hospitalized and all. So that was really tough. So balancing her particular hospitalization, then trying to also have the particular business running as well. So as I said, I had also already started the computer sales services and training business for computers itself. So that time it was a good sort of a scope for into the market. So I had started that way. It was going on good, right? So, but gradually all these personal aspects are also there, that I had to complete my graduation, as well as even my mom's health was there. So that was also deteriorating actually. So the doctors are advised that as soon as I get married, that will be good for us. So all sorts of things were there. So that was like a mixture of everything in the mind at that time. It was not a clear focus on sort of a one direction and all. It was just multiple things. So I would say that around 20, 21 years itself, right? So I actually was into that particular mode of an adult taking care of the family, where I was struggling to get many things out of it, but then not getting the total handle of it. That sort of a thing was there. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm sure all these things must have played out. Now coming to the core of the topic, must have played out when Ajinkya was born. And you
Yeah.
must have promised yourself saying, okay, I'm going to raise him differently.
Yes.
What was that like to have Ajinkya in your life at that
Correct.
point?
Yeah. So that was also a good story, because I got married into year 2003. All right. And so that time it was like just I would say that the sort of a chat mangli chat biya sort of a thing that time.
Yeah.
That I think on 1st of August or so, because my wife came from MP, that's Madhya Pradesh, and I am from Pune, right? So it happened through a matrimonial site itself. And 1st August or so, I think they had been to Pune just to see me and see the house and all, right? So on that day itself, we finalized everything, that okay, we want to get married. And we were just maybe 10-15 minutes, we just met into a coffee shop and all. So we decided that okay, we should go ahead with that. And I think on from 1st till 9th August I was married. So that was so chat mangli chat beer, because first of all, the major thing was like my mom's health, right? So the doctors had advised that as soon as you get married, as soon as you have a family, it will be better for her. So that time, immediately that happened. And then immediately after 1 year, Ajinkya was born. That's on September 20, 2004,
Hmm.
2005, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, 2004, sorry, 2004 September. Yeah. So that time then, uh, the main focus was like to bring Ajinkya into the family, and making my mom happy. That's what's why first motto out of it that time, right? And Ajinkya was also such a lovely child that okay, when he came to the family, my mom was like so happy. But unfortunately, she could play with him only for 6 months. So immediately after 6 months, she also passed away. So that was another shocker that time.
Yeah. 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 I'm sure, No, I feel bad on another note that you couldn't date for a longer time and you just had to get married. But that's on a lighter note. But just
Yes.
coming to Ajinkya in terms of, I think he must have been such a lovely kid for all these beautiful paintings that you see for the audience behind on the screen
Yes.
are all done by Ajinkya. So I'm sure, how was he as a child? Describe Ajinkya for us. Let's relive that moment for a while.
Right. So I would say he was full of life, actually. I mean, he was very, very positive, very loving. I would say, I mean, he was equally naughty as well, because in the schools, especially, right? So there were many complaints that used to come from the teachers, not because he is troubling others, because that he is super intelligent and always proactive. And whenever the teacher used to ask some question and all in the class, maybe he was the first person to raise his hand, and just not raising the hand and waiting for the teacher, he used to just answer that particular question. And that happened very rare, I mean, very much, many times or so. So the teacher was like, "What is this, Ajinkya? Just let others also answer." And also, sort of a person Ajinkya was that. Okay, I mean, he was one side a very intelligent, very proactive, very loving, very caring, but the other side also, I mean, that sort of an age of his, right? So he was not understanding some aspects and all. So trying to be naughty as well. So all sorts things were there at the beginning. And very caring. I mean, I would say that he had total faith in his parents. Like whatever we used to say, I mean, whatever I or maybe my wife used to tell him, he used to do that, he used to follow that. But these are some things which never he followed. That okay, I should listen to the teacher or so. But the other side, he was totally with us. So sort of I was always Ajinkya that time.
Okay. So how did you find out about this, leukemia, and how was that? It must have hit you hard, I'm sure. But how did this happen in terms of when did you find out about this, and what was happening to Ajinkya at that point that resulted in this journey of trying to find out what is going on with him?
Yeah. So for 8 years, I would say there were no symptoms at all. There was nothing as such. He had that mild asthma sort of a thing, but that was at the start of his age. That is still first 5 years and all. But that was a normal thing. I mean, I think normally small kids already have that sort of a problem and all. So that was not a major as such. But after, I mean, on the eighth year, that is, I think, in 2012, right? So into the month of October or so, I realized that there are some black spots on his particular hand and his two legs and all, right? So that I tried saw, and I was worried. I mean, at start I just ignored that because I thought like there should be some sort of a maybe he while playing or something he got hurt, and due to that particular bruising has been there and all. But it kept on increasing, so I thought like I should maybe request the doctors to just check that. So we had a pediatric doctor for him, especially a child specialist, and then we went to that doctor. So he suggested us to do a CBC, that's the blood test, and we did that. So unfortunately, the platelet count was very low that time in that particular CBC report. So he suggested us that okay, this is something else. So you should visit the hematologist doctor, that's Dr. Samir Melinkeri, and he referred to Dr. Samir Melinkeri, and then we happened to meet up Dr. Samir Melinkeri that time. So, so it was really a shocker that time because such a fun-loving person, I mean, a healthy person, I would say, always onto so doing something active, always playing and all sort of thing, always smiling, I would say. And suddenly one fine day, this happens, right? So that way. Then Dr. Melinkeri diagnosed, I mean, he had this particular bone marrow test as such. So the biopsy reports were not favorable that time. So he found out that there are multiple blast cells in his particular biopsy report and all. So the thing started there.
And how did Ajinkya must have known about it, right? 8 years old is not a very small age. So he must have at least got some sense of what he's going through. So how did that conversation with him happen? And did he know straight away, or how was it, or did you break it to him like over a period of time?
Yeah, so the cancer term, right? So cancer term, we never told him. Rather, till his last day also, he was not aware of that he had cancer. Because first of all, he, as I said, he was very active. He was always on something new, making YouTube videos and all sort of things he used to do. So a total tech savvy person,
Mhm.
always on laptop doing something, always on phone or something. He used to always do something. So it was really tough that time to avoid that particular cancer term. If in case he searches that into the Google, right? So he would naturally get the negative information or maybe half information out of that particular word. Because mostly the contents that we have on the internet or about cancer are mostly negative and all, right? So that's what I realized. So we were like, we should not tell him about it. We should not use this particular cancer word as such, but we should tell him about it, that because he has to be prepared for the treatment. So I thought like we should tell him, but how should we tell him? So we decided to speak about him on the particular technical aspects only, but in terms of cells and all. So we told him that your particular body has some bad cells in it,
Mm.
and that sort of good cells versus bad cells fighting is going on in your body, and we have to improve your good cells and reduce the bad cells. So that's the issue that you're having right now, and
Mm.
that's the basic thing. So just one, I mean, how to explain him was a problem actually, because he at his age naturally he would not won't understand that. So recently there was a movie, right, Lakshya, if you remember. It had been at the same duration, where uh, so that was a, I mean, my particular wife, right? So she came up with this particular idea that, because Lakshya was his, I think, his favorite movie again, right? It's because
Mhm.
he used to like such soldiers, guns,
Mhm.
cars, and all, right?
Mhm.
So so that's the reason my wife told him that, okay, Ajinkya, you like Lakshya, right? So what happens in Lakshya is like one particular uh, group is fighting to save the particular country for us, right? So maybe whatever the mountain they are trying to,
Interesting.
yeah, cover and all. So then she tried to convince him that way, that okay, this is it that your body now has. There are two sort of army fronts. One is the bad cells, one is the good cells that your body has. Now your good cells has to cover those bad cells, and this is the way our doctor, Dr. Samir Melinkere, will be helping us to do that. And you should always cooperate to him. So that sort of a
Interesting.
language or that sort of a things we told him that time.
Yeah. So in a sense, you
Yeah.
created a Marvel story kind of thing in terms of
Yes, we had to,
almost like
because
a Marvel
that's
comic.
what.
Is no, but it's interesting because most parents find it difficult to break this news, and especially in a pediatric scenario. How do you explain it in a language, like this, which is not negative nor positive, and still telling them that okay, you have to fight this and you have to become the good soldier and stuff like that. Yeah, but all the I have seen bone marrows and chemos very closely for pediatric patients. In fact, my one of my I had several breakdown moments, but one of my breakdown moment was when I was seeing a needle being poked into a 9
Yeah,
months year old's leg,
yeah,
and I had like literally shivers in my body and tears in my eyes. Uh, Ajinkya was young. 8 years is still not an age to kind of do this. How did he cope up with all this needles and chemo and one after the other? How did he go through this process?
yeah. So it was really tough actually. Uh, Tough in the sense to convince him to do that, right? At the start, it was really tough. But I don't know how, but this sort of a faith, the particular faith word I'm purposely using regularly, he had this faith in us, the particular, both the parents, right? So whenever some nurses or doctors used to come to maybe prick him or something, he used to just see to us. I mean, he was just to see towards us that, okay, what is this? I mean, I have to do this. Sort of a question was always there in his eyes. He actually did not ask that directly, but then he was like, he was looking towards us, that, okay, should I be doing this? Or is it the right thing to do? Or sort of a things he used to ask. And then either of me or my wife, right? So used to just nod our head like this. or maybe try to explain him, okay, this is it, Ajinkya, we have to do it now. So if we tell him that way, then he's prepared for it. I mean, he will not at all uh, resist that treatment. Whatever pain he has, he will go through that, but he will not at all resist to that particular treatment. I don't at all remember that he has ever cried or ever he has been very cranky about the treatment and all. Nothing. He has accepted the treatment. He has been very cooperative child. Even Dr. Samir Malinki, if you check with him, he's surprised. I mean, doctors are also surprised that okay, such a 8 years old kid, 8, 9 years kid, how can he be so sort of a person who is accepting the things he's, I mean, that's what I think. I mean, even doctors used to be very friendly with him, and they've always supported him. They've always maybe tried to tell him about something good out of it, and that's the reason I think he came out of it. And one more thing I would tell is like we never thought about the treatment sort of per se. I mean, we naturally our parents, we were discussing with the doctors. We were trying to understand what is the treatment, what could be the outcome. I used to Google about it and then try to search about the treatment in advance itself to be prepared for the treatment, so even for the side effects and all. But for with Ajinkya, we were taking it very lightly. I mean, we were telling him that okay, Ajinkya, this is your treatment. Maybe the chemo will go on for whatever 2-3 hours or so. But after that, we have just the next plan have was always ready there. I mean, after the treatment, maybe coming back from Dinarat Mangeshkar Hospital, we used to have some sort of a pizza party or some sort of a ice cream party while coming back and all. Of course, with guidelines with the doctor, from the doctor. I mean, whatever doctor used to tell us that we have to follow that guidelines. Always into wearing the mask, always using the sanitizer and all that was there. But we sort of planned for the next thing in that day. We were not focusing on the particular treatment. We were just planning for the day, the otherwise day. So that I think Ajinkya used to be prepared for that moment rather than focusing on the treatment right now. So he used to just maybe consider as a milestone there that just, okay, now it is a phase, we have to just travel through it and then we'll be reaching to particular point. So I
That's
think that
amazing.
way.
Yeah, because at that age, one of the things that today's generation feels is the entire peer pressure of what do I tell my friends, what do I tell my classmates, how can I go in with a bald head to the school, how can I have this needle stuck for a long time and stuff. So so how was that experience for Ajinkya? How did his friends and everybody, were they able to hold him in that space, his teachers and everybody, or how was that space for him?
Yeah, it was. I mean, he was into New India School as it was Kothurud. So, I mean, people were very cooperative again. I mean, whatever attendance factors were there, he could not attend the school and all. The school has always supported, very cooperative school and all that way. But the friends also have always supported him. If you remember, right, in November, the program event also, the friends were there present for that event, if you remember, Neerav, right? So, they have always been cooperative, no issues at all. They were trying to understand what has happened. They were always supportive, and I think that particular uh, let it go sort of a word, right? So let it go sort of a behavior aspect was there with Ajinkya. Like right now is the day I'm facing this, but next moment it will be good for me. So that sort of a thing he used to have that in mind. So I don't think he had that emotional setback on any time that okay, he has that black hair and all. Rather, he had two times, right? So if you have gone through it, yeah. So he had two times because has been through chemotherapies. Almost 3-4 cycles have been completed for him. Had been completed rather. BMT was one time. The second BMT was planned. That's through the Haplo itself. So I mean, he had been that. He was prepared, and he did that. So I would. I mean, I was actually that time also I was very surprised, but this time also I feel like after this particular storm has recovered, right? So I realized that okay, Ajinkya was a really wonder child. I would say that okay, he has gone through that, and how did he do that? I do not. See, really do not have the answers for it.
So I just wanted to ask you one question because you said he went for a haplo transplant.
Yeah.
Was it because you couldn't find a donor, or or did doctors say that maybe we'll try with haplo, or was cost a factor? Having gone through 8 years of rigorous chemo, the expenses would have shot up the roof. So was that the reason why you didn't go for a outside donor in terms of 100% match? What was the reason to go ahead with haplo?
Yeah. So as I said, 2012 is treatment started, right? So normally for male child, it is 2.5 years of treatment. That is the first cycle that they go on through.
Right.
So after 2.5 years, he was actually fine. After for almost 6 months after that treatment, his counts are good. He was recovering out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor had said that another 2.5 years, we have to see that if he covers out of it, he will be 100% out of that particular acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And but unfortunately, immediately after 6 months, his relapse did happen, right? So at that time, then the doctor said that, okay, there is no other alternative now. We have to do a BMT. So we will register for it. We will find donors. And we did register. So as you know, Datri is the portal where we registered.
Yes.
And we tried to find donors, but we were not getting as such donors out of it. So we ran through a report as well. I think histogenics lab is the lab where the reports are sent, and then So we could not find any donor. So gradually, Dr. Melinkeri was prepared that we can do a haplo as such. So he said that both of you, the parents, right? Both of them, our particular blood samples were taken. Then whatever, luckily or whatever you can say, my particular cells or what my particular reports matched with Ajinkya as partially, but some sort of an indicator, they say that, okay, this is the indicator which is required, that luckily matched with mine with Ajinkya. So that time then the doctor decided that, okay, we'll not wait for the donor, we'll go ahead with the haplo, and we will take my particular stem cells and then do the particular BMT that time. So that was the first thing. That's the reason we came into this.
Okay.
And we had full faith in Dr. Melinkeri. So we were like, whatever he tells us, we'll go ahead with that.
Absolutely. In fact, more than half of the people on this call have immense faith in him, and I think will always remain. I think he's one of the finest doctors that we have in today's time. So, yeah, but having said that, it must have been solidly expensive, right? The whole process of not only this entire treatment spanning over 8 years. So how did you manage? And it must have been pretty stressful, all said and done. It's not easy to do this. So,
right.
Yeah. Yes. Can you share some insights about
Correct.
this?
So this sort of a discussion happened between three of us rather. I would say Ajinkya, myself, and his mother, wife, right?
Yeah.
So we discussed about it that, okay, this is now the thing that we have to, on our particular parts, we have to play a role now. That Ajinkya will be playing a role of getting treated. He has to keep total faith in doctors and his parents. Yashoda, my wife, has to take care of the other aspects, supporting Ajinkya or having the particular house meant for him and all sort of things. And then I have to take the role of maybe as a father, take the role of supporting Ajinkya as well, answering his questions whenever he asks, and also working on the financial aspect, because naturally there were multiple huge bills given by the hospital, right? That Dr. Melinkeri gave a estimated letter also that this is a sort of a expense you will be having during this particular treatment and all. So I was like, what to do now? I had some Mediclaim and all for the entire family, but that was something very short amount, I would say, because naturally no one is prepared for such things. That we had that thing, but not as such for a cancer treatment as such, right? So that way. So I was thinking about it, that what to do next now, because this particular things are there. I was prepared to sell off my house even. That, okay, this is it. If required, I would go ahead with it. Maybe I can take a loan on my house, or even if required, we can shift from a 2 BHK to a 1 BHK also. That's fine with us. So I was prepared for everything now at that time, right? But then I suddenly happened to meet one of my friends, so Alok Thakkar from my organization, right? So he was like that, Nilesh, we can do one thing. I was never aware of this sort of fundraising activities and all, right? So I
Right.
was like that, how will I be asking people to support me? I mean, that sort of you can say egoistic thing or something we always have in our mind, that how why should I ask for help? Why will
Mm.
people help me? Sort of a thing I had in that time in my mind. So this friend of mine, he was like that, Nilesh, try to karte hain. Let's do it. So
Mm.
then he introduced Milap organization to me,
Correct.
right? So
Yeah.
Milap is, I mean, everybody's aware of it now. So Milap really supported me that time. That okay, this is it. So your particular case is genuine. I
Mhm.
mean, we just need a letter from the doctor with the estimated letter and all. We will keep it on our portal and we'll request everybody to support on that particular cause, right?
Right.
And we'll clearly tell them that this is the situation, that his father is earning, he's into IT,
Mm.
but not
Mm.
substantially earning that to pay the hospital bills, which is
Correct.
huge. And we are
Correct.
actually doing it for Ajinkya. So that time, then even everybody tried to help me that time, and
Wow.
somehow we could manage that particular first treatment cost as such for BMT.
Wow. And I think this is, very important point that you just raised, that a lot of salaried people, who have some funds, say, even if I bring everything together, I will have probably 15 lakhs. But
Yeah,
we know the expenses could shoot to 30, 35, 40 and stuff. And it actually becomes a problem for them either to step out and ask for funds, or even for the other to say, नहीं यार ये तो 2 BHK में रह रहा है यार, इसको क्या problem हो सकता है?
yeah,
Not understanding the point that there are only limited savings that we currently have,
true.
and there is so much more that we need to gather to be able to fund this. So yeah, I think it's a very important point that you just raised. But again, getting back to Ajinkya, how were your last days with him? Knowing now that, okay, this is the moment of reality for me. Uh, how was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, we were actually not prepared, I would say, that we were not prepared for that day. We were like, I mean, as I've said, 3, 4 times he had been through this aspect. We were always planning to do some next steps, right?
Mm. Mm.
That after the BMT, then after the BMT was done, right? So for that was done from my side. I mean, the haplo was done. After that, also he recovered. He was very well for, I think, for 1.5 years, he was doing very well out of it. I mean, the platelet count were recovering, very, very stable and all. But unfortunately, again, relapsed. So that was another time. Then doctor said that, okay, now we can do another haplo. That will be from his mother's side. So we were prepared for that as well. And that time the doctor said now it has to be a more intensive chemotherapy. That's the flag, if everybody is aware of it. So flag has to be given now to him. And then after that, the second haplo can happen. So we were prepared for it. We were building all the sort of things for him. Now, okay, this is it now, this is it now, this sort of things. We were not prepared to give up, right? So we were not at all ready to give up. We were not about thinking about such last day and all, right? So that way was really tough to um, so doctors, even Dr. Melinkeri, even one or two doctors from Dinath Mangeshkar Hospital had tried to convince both of us, that the parents, that you should somewhere now stop actually, because but we were not prepared. So I was always like, doctor, you have just given the chemotherapy, you have just completed it. Now he's into remission. Now he's doing good. Now his platelets are good now. So how do you say that he's not well now, right? So let's give us some time. He may come out of it. So sort of a thing always was there. So we were working on that. And I mean, I would say that the last thing, right? So we had planned for the flag also, and then so flag was given to him, I think, and we were preparing him for the haplo for final things. Finally, I mean, the haplo was to happen. But before that, there was something else which started. The side effects, especially, right? The bleeding have started, and then due to that bleeding, especially, we had to have this surgeries for 4 to 5 times for him. So those sort of things happened, and due to that, I would say that we had to take a call on it actually. So 21st March 2020, the doctor finally gave me a letter that this is it, Neelesh, you just have to sign this letter now. I mean, he tried to convince me that you think of it now, we can go ahead further, more we can do, maybe we can do further surgeries and all also for him, but this is it now, you have to think of it, Neelesh, what you have to do actually. So I signed the letter on 21st, and then 22nd he was no more, sort of. So so we were not prepared. I mean, just I would say the last days we did not plan at all. It is just the 2 days of aspect, 21st and 22nd, that we would say that the things turn for us. I mean, I don't know what to say there.
It is tough. It is tough. I think when I just look at the colors on the screen behind in terms of all the paintings, and suddenly all these colors just vanish out of your life, it is unbelievably painful. And I don't think anybody except a parent can fully understand, what a person. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Neelesh.
I'm sorry.
No, I think how do we hold space for this? He was so lively, and as you're describing, such an amazing painter, as you can see behind. Yeah, so obviously he'd not given up till the last day, and he had faith that, probably this will come through. But and just bringing to this, so how did you cope up with this? Because that to me is much more difficult than the loss itself. The loss is gone and it's gone forever. But staying with this loss, how does it feel to be with the grief and still starting to say, there are so many words people use, like moving on, and we have to, like really keep it behind us and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's all, it's all very difficult. How do so how do you phrase this whole experience of?
It was tough actually, Neeraj, I would say. As I said, we were not prepared at all for the last day. Okay, so it was really tough just to coping. I mean, coming out of it, I did not believe it actually. I mean, how can this happen with me, sort of a thing? Why me, sort of question was always I was asking to myself that why me, sort of thing. Why Ajinkya? And Ajinkya was really a very active kid. I mean, if you have already seen his paintings and all. And I would also like to tell, I mean, he had designed a calendar as such. I mean, the table calendar also. That was, I think, in December 2019, he designed that. And we had this copies printed, especially to appreciate people supporting. Okay. Because he was like a kid that, okay, I mean, he used to always appreciate others. He used to always give a smile to others. He used to greet them. He used to appreciate for whatever they do to him. I mean, maybe somebody just getting some food item for him or something sort of. He always used to appreciate making some handmade gifts, maybe some earrings to the sisters, nurses there. Even even for on the Rakhi Purnima and all, preparing Rakhis and then gifting those Rakhis to the sisters or so. So he was such an active child, right? So then Ajinkya came up with this idea that, okay, because somewhere he saw that this is a new year now. I mean, upcoming new year, because it was December 2019, and it was a new year sort of a period. So Ajinkya came up with this idea that, okay, I want to design a calendar where I will be using my all paintings there, and I will be drafting that calendar. And Baba, he used to call me Baba. So Baba, you please help me to get this printed. So that we did in the December 2019. We got this calendars printed. I would just like to show you that if you.
Sure.
So, sorry. Yeah, this is it. If you're able to see.
Yeah, of course. Wow.
Right. So all his paintings are there. And then the particular drafting, calendar, designing, he has done it for it. Right.
Amazing. That's amazing.
So this sort of gifts, right? Even
Yeah,
if
and
you
I like the name. He's written Celebration March.
celebration
So
of
I think
life.
for every month, does he have a new theme? Wow,
Yes.
that's
For new theme. And along with that, if you're able to see, I'm not sure if you're able to see.
yeah, we are able
22nd,
to read this.
yeah,
Yeah.
22nd September, he has tried to highlight the date. 22nd September is his birthday. So he's tried to highlight it for himself. So
Right.
such a person, right? So
Mm,
so it was really very tough for me to cope up that, okay, such a child, such active child, such always the helpful child, how can he be no more, right? Sort of thing. It was tough for me actually. But then I decided I mean, after 1 year or so, then I thought like I should come out of it because that loss is always a loss now forever. But somewhere I have to come out of it. Somewhere maybe I have to think of other Ajinkys also, the similar child people, right? So similar children who are already suffering with the same particular aspects at Dinala Mangesh Hospital. Or so there are several such kids who are actually going through such
yeah.
illness, sickness, treatments, and all, right? So we should give some support to them. We should maybe have some helping hand to them, right? So sort of thing. And also, I wanted to bring this positive journey, which is actually an inspirational story for Ajinkya to have that written in a book, right? So
No,
as
it's
you,
amazing because most people
yeah,
don't want to talk about it. And, and for no fault of theirs, they think that only the stories where somebody has survived and come back to life is a story of worthy of cause. But can a story of a celebration of life, even though a very short life, be celebrated like this? And and I think that's where this thing, which you
yeah.
are sharing, that you've started to think about other Ajinkyas and how can we help them in the process. So how did you go about doing this? So what all activities have you done, and what do you plan to do?
Right. So I think, I mean, the first thing I was like, there are many particular support groups and all who actually maybe work on blood donation camps, or there are other several activities that people do. I mean, I think there are very few number of support groups which actually work on the fundraising. So I
Correct.
thought like I should actually be working on that particular aspect because I had been go through that. I know the importance of fundraising, and I know how to do it now. So sort of a thing that, okay, all sort of connects I had at that time also, Millap or even doctors, even patients, and also I know everything. I have that experience. So that sort of experience can be helpful to others, right? Who are actually going through it right now. At that moment, maybe nobody actually realizes the importance of it. Nobody is actually aware that how to go about it. So somewhere we can maybe be a part of their sort of journey also. We can try and support them somehow. So I thought like I should focus on fundraising as such. And right now my focus is on pediatric patients itself, supporting them. Uh, so I thought like there could be two methods to it. One is uh, writing this particular Ajinkya's inspiration story in a book,
Mhm.
trying to sell that book,
Okay.
creating funds out of that particular book, and then donating these funds to the particular needy children. So that was the first thing I started.
Sure.
So I requested an author, so Pradnya
Mhm.
Vaze. So she is part of this call now. Thanks to Pradnya. So now,
Oh, wow.
thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. So thanks to her, I mean, we could prepare this book. We could actually a wonderful book. I just want to show that book to you here.
Sure.
If you're able to see.
Me Ajinkya. Yeah.
Yeah, the name is Hi Me Ajinkya's. Ajinkya meaning is that he is always the winner. So
Correct.
we thought
Invincible.
like we should have this sort of a book published. And Neeraj, you were present for that event, right? In November, we had this event for publishing, as well as that was a cultural activity as such. That we had this Basri Vadan, even singing was there. So that is the second thing I wanted to discuss about, that sort of fundraising activities also can be done, where we can have sort of cultural activities or such events, maybe drawing competitions or sort of things,
Beautiful.
and generate funds from there and donate
Absolutely.
to particular hospitals. I mean, especially to children, right? So
That is amazing, and that's such a noble thought to even really think about this. And I'm sure we can work together on this. And really, but just tell me more about the book. I think I'm very keen to know. And since the author is also here, maybe we might take a couple of minutes on her experience on the writing. But just before, uh, how this book came to you? What motivated you to bring this book out?
the motivation was two things only. That is, one is that I wanted Ajinkya to be alive with me always. So that's the first thing that I wanted to have that in the book. Second is,
I'm just gonna this.
yeah,
Yeah,
Trimurti, I
no
think.
worries.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
So that was the first, we could say, motivation behind it, that, okay, I want to keep Ajinkya along with me forever. So that can be in a form of book also. That's okay with me. But I want to put in all the details about his life, about his journey, about his always smiling nature, being positive, always being active, always planning the day for himself. All those things I wanted to have that in the book. And also the second thing important, I have already told you, that the fundraising out of the book, right? The sale of the book will always, also generate the particular funds for the particular patients and all, right? So that was the two things. So in this year itself, in the month of December, January, that's 2022 itself, I planned so. And luckily, whatever I think, I happened to meet Pradnya. Pradnya was it. Through one of her reference, actually, we had never met. Actually, Pradnya and myself, we had never met. So Pradnya actually has not met Ajinkya ever, but still she could write many good things. I mean, many things about Ajinkya, and actually how Ajinkya was like, right? So she was able to write it in specifics in the book. And this book, I would say, is 100% Ajinkya right now. That, okay, I mean, if somebody reads through the book, they will see through how Ajinkya is, and his sort
Yes.
of a celebration of life and all. They can see through the book. So thanks to Pradnya.
Amazing. No, I think hats off to your commitment to this cause and having bounced back. And you sound so effortless, but I'm sure it is not that easy to be able to, really cope up with this loss. So on a very tangent, I'm going to ask you this question, okay? Is at one end we have the loss of parents, which you've seen at a very early age, and then you have the loss of your child. Uh, what goes on in our minds, because there are some people who is not able to take the loss of their parents very easily, and there are some who are not able to see that with your child. For you, having gone through this unfortunate event one after the other in your life with parents and then with the kid, uh, how would you see the difference? Just not getting into this thing, but why is it so difficult for people to not accept a child's passing away, and at the same time, when their parents are no more, they're able to somehow sense that, okay, this was maybe meant to be. What are your thoughts? It's a very difficult question, I know, but
Yeah,
if you can just.
I think this loss will be forever. This loss is such a thing that you cannot actually repair that. I mean, the child gone is gone. I mean, they'll not never return back. But then there has to be something, right? So we can I mean, we cannot replace the person, but at least we can keep that person alive somehow. That's what I feel. My parents, I miss them a lot. They have been. I mean, I've seen their sort of a struggle. As I said, my father came from a a small place from Karnataka. He built his career here and raised three of the kids. My mother used to work very hard as a teacher. She was very respected teacher. So all sorts of things are there with me, and I want to keep these people alive, right, along with me. I don't want to lose them, though they are physically not with me, but don't want to lose them now. So it is like, I think like there are phases of life, and one phase is gone, the another phase is going. Whatever the phases are there, but this sort of phase that I am right now into is something else. I am into a phase now that I'm maybe I can say a word, a sentence to you, is that when you become fearless, right? So life becomes limitless, sort of thing. That if you right now there is no fear at all with me. I mean, there's nothing to lose, sort of thing. Rather, I could be limitless right now. I can maybe, in the right sense, I'm saying that if I take it positively that way, somehow maybe I can help others to come out of this somehow, or maybe the similar situations, whatever they are going through. Maybe I can try to provide a helping hand to them and all.
Sure, sure.
So that's what I feel. I mean, I
Ah,
mean, nobody can ever come out of it, but at least
ah.
we can
No,
have
I'm sure this
something.
is going to become a quote someday, Nilesh, that when you become fearless, you become limitless. I think it's just so well said, and I don't think you could have said anything more. Since we are just running, I think, in the nick of
Yeah.
time, I, in case if there are any questions in the audiences, I think we should take it now. Maybe one or two questions. So if anybody feels free to ask a question, please unmute yourselves and, you can ask this question. Yes, Pita, go ahead.
Neelesh, like Neerad was saying earlier, I really don't have words to say anything to your journey. But I know from my personal journey or others around that writing can be very therapeutic and it helps in the healing process. I just wanted you to respond to how was the writing process, especially here, you were not personally writing, but you were writing through Pradnya. So what was that journey like for your healing?
Yeah, thanks, Vita. Thanks for bringing the point again, because I missed to say about it, right? So as I said, right, I wanted to write. I wanted to keep Ajinkya alive along with me. I started writing actually, but I was not able to write it because, I mean, as they said, right, doctors cannot operate their own family members or kids, right? So I was not able to write it. Whenever I used to write a line, I used to start, I mean, I used to get into tears. I was not at all able to write it, but I had to write. So then I reached out to Pradnya that, okay, Pradnya, this is it. You have never met Ajinkya. I will give you maximum inputs. I mean, whatever inputs you need from me. But she was like, she wanted, I mean, I used to just tell her that, okay, Ajinkya and myself, we just went to this particular uh, hospital or hotel or something, right? So that place. But then she wanted that particular entire explanation for that particular activity, why you had been there, how you had been there, and sort of things. So that was really tough for me to answer her questions that time. But then she helped me a lot to get out of it. She helped me a lot that, okay, this is it. I will try to understand. She actually went ahead to discuss with my relatives, my friends also. She took interviews of them as well to understand how Ajinkya was. And then she has actually drafted this entire book. So I would give 100% credit to her itself, because I wanted to write it. I could not actually write it. If you tell me to write 2 lines about Ajinkya, it's really tough for me. Right now, you have realized how it is tough for me to speak about Ajinkya. I know I have him 100% with me, but it is really tough for me to even speak about Ajinkya because it's there with me. He's my part. It's really tough for me to speak about him as well.
Thank you.
So really, thank you so much, Nilesh. And I think this holds an inspiration to so many people who go through this loss. And I wish we had a community where people who've had losses come together and share it commonly in a forum. And since Pradnya is online, and if she doesn't mind, to really come on screen, can you share your experience, Pradnya, if you're okay with that? of how the experience was of writing the book, and how is it for you individually to hear this, entire story and process it?
Give me a minute in there.
Sure.
I have poor bandwidth here, so I don't know if you can see me properly.
Yeah, we can see you. We can see you clearly now.
All right. So thank you, Neeraj, and thank you, Neelesh, for making me a part of this conversation. And another thank you to Neelesh, an official thank you for making me a part of his journey. Yes, like he said, the reference came from one of his friends. I mean, a common friend who told me that there is a person who wants to write a book on his son. I was shocked, and I seriously hope that I should get this opportunity. But I didn't know if he really agrees to this, how I would actually go about it, because it is not a happy story, right? It is not a success story that you're presenting before everybody. So every step of it was a challenge, but somehow, I don't know, only thing I knew from the time I heard about the topic was that I wanted to do it. Ajinkya, I would say, first of all, gave me agreed to it, which is why I seriously believe that it came to me. And then yes, one day I and Neelesh spoke about it. And then he came to Bangalore. He gave me a few recordings all through the week. We sat and started discussing about the story, but I would say that was not enough, because getting points is not enough to write a story, a biography. And another difficult thing was, he was the only source of getting information for me, because the way we began this topic, I would say, is, there are, it's a little diversion to the topic, but there are ways how people react to their sadness, right? Some people try to keep it to themselves. Some people know the value of their loss, and they want everyone to know how invaluable it was, how their experience was. So both the parents had their ways of doing it. His mother was not at all ready to or I would say, instead of being ready, I think she couldn't open her mouth. She wouldn't have. Somehow she could just give 30 minutes, and that is what I had from a person who spent, I would say, 99% of her life with the child. And then the father, who had to make most of it to ensure that the treatment and the living goes on. He would have been there on phone calls, on video calls, or in the 4 or 5 hours of life that they get together. And how much will he be able to express? So that was another challenge. And keeping all this aside, he was going through terrible times when we started writing over it. So if asking him for details was a very difficult thing for me, because I knew I'm going to poke him to get answers. Yeah, which is not a good thing. But now, as it turns out, after, it's not a good thing, but sometimes you have to, what's the way to carve a sculpture. He had to go through all that. And you see a more confident, a more stable person who's out of his own shell, and who's standing before all of us today to do whatever he can to all other Ajinkya's.
Oh, that's amazing. And how was the living experience for you of Ajinkya while writing this book? Were you able to relive him in because as a writer, you cannot express unless you're into the role of.
Yes.
So were you with him in this journey?
I have been with him. I have been is not the right way, but even today he guides me, I would say. In every difficult situation, this is what, there are some, every time, I used to hear it from his father, but every time he is the hero, right? Everything was around him. So I had to think how he sees the world, how he thinks, how his relatives are with him, and picturize what he thinks he has got. what he thinks he is going through. Just the way Neelesh told that for him, probably cancer was not known. The terminology called cancer was not known, probably, yeah, because he's a child who's so smart and who knows to Google and find out or do his own research. But he knew what he had to do. He knew that his parents have given him a mission and he has to do it all his while. So trying to understand him was was not a difficult task again. I was just trying to find out a picture that is visible outside to outside world. Thankfully, I don't know how. There are some things that are outside this outside our five senses that we can't explain, that we can't show each other. Like I told you, when my friend told me that there is a story like this, will you be interested in? That was the day one.
You had to do it.
Yes, and that was the day when I connected with Ajinkya. That was the day I told him that I want to write about you. Would you like to? I mean, do you think I'm capable of doing it? From that day, I would say, from the day his father explained how he was, the picture started. I mean, it started forming in front of my eyes. Apart from that, you can say it was a soul connection. I don't know if anybody believes here, but I believe in it totally. There is an internal connection. Only thing I was trying to do is try to give it shape, size, color, and words, and bring it in front of everybody. So,
and I'm sure you've done it beautifully, because the applause that people have kind of shared after the book, they've read the book, and the kind of feedback that we've got, I'm sure it's amazing. I would love also for these copy to be translated in English maybe, and Hindi someday, where we can have access and more like a downloadable copy that we can all read. But really, thank you so much for bringing Ajinkya in this form to us, and I think it's just nothing but a privilege to know a young soul, which is an old soul in one sense, in a young body, sharing these experiences. So thank you so much, Pradnya, for really bringing this alive for us.
Thank you, Pradnya.
Rightly concluded, Miller, and thanks a lot.
Thank you. And I think now we're just at the end of the call, and really I would like to thank Neelesh. This has not been an easy call for me as well, because I have multiple emotions, because I get connected to many people. I speak to many people. We lose on the way. In this work, it's never going to be easy. We knew that right from the beginning, that when we started the BMT Foundation, that while we would celebrate somebody's victory, we would also equally have to grieve in their loss. And I think this happens almost every month, where we have one success and kind of one person losing. And I think it's all about finding the right balance and kind of being focused. And I think you taught us a very important lesson on how to bounce back, and and really bring beauty into the world. So thank you so much for that, Neelesh.
Thank you, Adira.
Looking forward to many more interesting conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you for the audience who stayed so long, beyond our time to just be as a part of this conversation. So thank you so much, and hopefully we'll meet very, very soon, Neelesh. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Bye.